Hello, hello, welcome back. Hondo's Blockbuster here. We are here to finally talk some spoilers about Superman. It personally was pretty tough for me to stay as spoiler free as possible because there's so much I want to talk about in this movie, and most of it pertains to certain decisions that were made, and it's going in as fresh as you can be listening to the review. This is your time now. If you have seen the movie, you can stay here. If you don't care to be spoiled, you can stay here too. But definitely go out and see this and then come back and watch this because we are going to spoil the ever living shit out of this movie. All right, so we are talking pure spoilers here. So if this isn't as much of a reminder to get out if you don't want to be here or don't want to be spoiled, this is your time. AJ, my friend, welcome back to the pod. I mean, you've recognized this face from the drafts. We went together to go see Superman at the early premiere, and now we're here to talk about it. AJ, how you doing, my friend?
Great. Honored to be appearing on Hondo's Blockbuster for the second time and excited to, in your words, spoil the ever living shit out of Superman because this thing was awesome. I
Yes,
see we
yes.
save our final ratings towards the end, although if you're a loyal Hondo's Blockbuster fan, you would have seen the short on the day of the early
True.
review.
True, and I gotta give shout outs because one, if you've watched the spoiler free review, well, first off, if you haven't watched it, I'm gonna put it up here somewhere. But if you have watched it, thank you. As of now, it is absolutely popping off. It's the biggest video yet, which is great. And then the short also did really well. So I'm hoping that people who watch that do know your rating. But if they didn't, without rating it, give us some early thoughts, and you can say whatever you want about it now.
Early thoughts, I'd say right off the bat, um, James Gunn took a lot of kind of creative risks with Superman. I'd say David Cornsweet, just as a basis, is my favorite casting for Superman, especially in his role as Superman over Clark Kent. He really shines in comparison to a lot of the others. There were really only two decisions which we won't get into yet that James Gunn made that I was dissatisfied with and didn't really like. But overall, I think this has been killing it. I know that it's already broken a record for the amount of ticket sales for preview showings. Um, so yeah, I mean, I loved it. I'm actually gonna go rewatch it today and hopefully have even some more insight. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
No, for sure. And I want to start with one of the things that you mentioned. We're gonna go kind of go not we're not gonna go break down the entire movie, but there's certain points that I want to touch. And the first one is David Cornsweet. I'm with you. I think David Cornsweet for me, I think the reason I even liked it more than I would have because I do have some issues with the plot and things like that. But he himself, David Cornsweet, is amazing. Like he's incredible. He is Superman. He embodies the character so well, and he's just somebody. And I said it in my reviews, like he's somebody that you want to root for. That you like when you're watching him, you're like, I need this guy to win. It's not, usually you have that with any hero, but he specifically, he brings so much heart and hope to this role that was perfect for Superman. And I'm excited to see kind of where he grows with the character. But but overall, I mean, he was my favorite part of the movie, and I've loved everything that he's done in terms of like all the promotion, like getting to know him outside of the character. It's been really cool. I didn't really know much about him, and he's a super cool, down to earth guy it seems, and he brings that sort of like cool, almost like nerdy energy to this character, and I think it works really well. So I think David Cornsweet is incredible. I think he's the best part of
Completely agree. I mean, you see him in all these behind the scenes interviews, and he just feels like one of us, a fellow nerd who
the yeah.
just happens to be insanely good looking and kind of built for the role of Superman. I was reading on Twitter, a couple people had said that this was the first time that they could kind of relate to Superman, and I really agree. I think that typically when as a casual you think of Superman and you kind of think of this stoic presence who kind of maintains emotion through the highs and the lows and tackles everything, kind of steadily. But I think James Gunn made the decision to really try to bring Superman down a little bit, to make him more human and to really feel. And that's actually one of the themes that's explored, that even though he's technically an alien, he's really as human as anybody, and in some cases more human than anybody. Some of my yeah. No, so some of my favorite moments, I mean, since we can fully get into it because it's a spoiler breakdown is, when you find out what happens to Crypto and it's absolutely heartbreaking. He's missing Crypto and he flies into Luthor Core, which I also like that decision to change from Lex Core to Luthor Core. And he's screaming at
Wait,
Lex
is it
saying,
not?
"Where's my dog?"
I thought it was LexCorp.
Was it Lex Core?
Think so.
I think it was Lex Core and he changed it to Luthor Core.
Let me see. I don't know. Let me see. I could have sworn it was
Yeah,
LexCorp.
I think Gunn made the decision to change
Oh, you're
the.
right. It is. It's Luthor Corp. Wow. I thought it was LexCorp.
Don't test me on my Superman knowledge. Yeah, historically it used to be LexCorp, and then James Gunn thought it would be more realistic to have the last name of Luthor Corp. But anyways, the emotion when he loses Crypto, and then also there's a couple times in exchanges with Lois Lane, which shout out Rachel Brosnahan, she did an incredible job where he really lets out his emotion. Like, they're a new couple at this point, and he loses his cool, I think, in two different moments with Lois Lane, and that's so relatable.
100%. No, and it's funny because I'm glad you brought that up because some people have had issues with that. But I'm with you in the sense of I actually prefer that. Like I like the fact that he shows a different range of emotions. He's again, it's also like he's a younger version of Superman. Obviously, Man of Steel was an origin story, things like that. Same with the some of the other ones, but like he himself, he feels like a younger version, so he's growing into what eventually will probably be that stoic, more stoic character. But what I liked about this one is that like he feels very closely to some of the like more of the animated Supermans that I grew up with and I liked watching. And because yes, those a lot of times are the stoic big hero, but it shows the human side, but also like there's a certain like if this makes sense, a certain niceness that comes with Superman that essentially one of his biggest weaknesses is that he sees the best in everybody and he cares for everybody, right? And it comes off so well in this movie that that again that's one of my favorite things, and I think that plays in it. Like he's growing as a character, and those those different emotions, like when he's showing that, like when he's discussing with Lois, like it's all because he's like I didn't see it as a way like oh you need to check in with the president and I'm not doing this as an entity of a country. I'm doing this because people were going to die and I'm not going to let that happen. I love that angle and I love that I specifically love that scene, but I love that angle of Superman that is really core to his character and they brought it out perfectly.
Yeah, that scene when he's screaming at Lois because she keeps questioning him about that he should have taken all these precautionary steps to make his decision to intervene, and I think it was called Bravia, and he finally erupts and he says, "People were gonna die." That actually, I mean, it's kind of cringe, but that sent kind of like tingles or goosebumps down my spine because it was such a powerful moment. Yeah, I just really liked the direction that James Gunn went in kind of making a conscious effort to make Superman very relatable, very down to earth, and he's not perfect at this young stage in his career as Superman. I mean, he wants to do the right moral thing, but he's gonna have some hiccups along the way. And also, I saw recently that James Gunn said that every single DCU movie, and this could be a good segue into how this launches the DC universe, but that every DCU movie is going to have its own character, its own personality, its own nature, whatever. It's going to be unique. Regardless of whether Robert Pattinson is going to be the Batman of the DCU, this is kind of like the antithesis of Batman. Batman is kind of cold and stoic and reserved, but he keeps his emotions in check. This is a Superman who's the opposite. He kind of lets his emotions pour forth. He has personality. He's kind of just a well imagined, deeply imagined character.
I actually want to touch on that because I actually even more so after watching this movie think that they should just combine them. I just think the Batman should just be a part of it.
Yes.
In the sense of that world is so one. unique but so comic booky in its own right as well. Because this is one of the most comic booky superhero movies, and Gunn's very good about that. The Guardians were very much like that. Even the Suicide Squad was like that. But the Batman in that aspect, in terms of yeah, each one's gonna have its own distinct flavor. That's as distinct as it gets, and
100%.
it great opposition to Superman. And I can see these guys kind of interacting. I would, especially now that it's been quite a few years. Pattinson's a bit older too, so you can do a bit more, not veteran Batman, but like in a sense of like he's year 5 versus year 1, and I think that would work much better. I am a bit not worried, but I don't like the idea of having like multiple Batmans like franchises at the same time. It's kind of strange, and I think for the normal people, like they wouldn't get it. At the end of the day, me and you will be fine because we'll be like able to distinct which one's which. But like people are gonna be like, why the hell is there another Batman? Is this like part of the other Batman? It's just gonna get clumsy, and for that, I think you can just say screw it and put the Batman in this world, which would be crazy. But I think that because I mean, in the cartoons at least, and in the comics obviously too, but I love comparing to the cartoons because I love those so much. Gotham is shown always and is so different than Metropolis.
Metropolis.
And in this movie, you can see that you don't get as much like obviously it takes place mostly in Metropolis, but you don't get as much like Metropolis isn't as much of a character as Gotham is in the Batman, but you
Yeah,
can
that's a good
grow
point.
that. But they're so distinctly different that I think it could kind of easily segue into just saying like, oh, like it's part of it. Like you can James Gunn could retroactively be like the Batman is part of this universe and just like screw it and go from there. And I actually wouldn't even be upset. At first, I was like that would be kind of weird based on like whatever. At this point, I actually would prefer it because I love both movies. That I think they would be a great one-two punch. At this.
100%. You know, that world's finest idea that's going around, Batman and Superman teaming up, just that dichotomy of Robert Pattinson's iteration of the Batman and David Cornsweet's Superman. I would love to see them going on missions together and saving the world. I think more than ever, there's got to be a push for Robert Pattinson to kind of join the James Gunn DCU. So yeah, I'd say we should talk about this movie as a vehicle to not only start off the new era of Superman in the DCU, but the entire DCU itself, and kind of some of the problems that you had with the first half of the movie.
Yeah, I think that my biggest issues with this movie, as much as I did love this movie, I did have a lot of issues, especially that first half, like the midway point, like I mentioned in the non-spoiler. I was actually kind of worried, it's like, man, I'm not enjoying this as much as I was really hoping I would, and then the second half really kicks off for me. But I think a lot of my issues stem from the fact that it there's two parts to it. One, that the first half feels like you're just dropped in at a random point in the sense of like I felt like I was watching the sequel to a movie I haven't seen before. So it takes a little while to catch up. And then he's trying to obviously not only make this a Superman movie, but he's trying to establish the world around it with all these different characters and the fact that again this isn't an origin story. There's already been metahumans. There's already other heroes. And while it was cool, there's also a part of me that's like, I wish I knew more. And then I also, at the same time, wish they almost focused a tad bit more on Superman. Not saying that he's not the main character, because he absolutely is, and he gets, it's not like he's like sidelined or anything. But it's just like the first half felt so crammed at times that I was like, what is going on? It's moving fast. It's like there's so many different elements being introduced where I think it hinders it a little bit there. But like going forward, I think that it's going to be helpful with this movie already out that now the world does feel lived in. I just wish I had seen a bit more of that beforehand or known a bit more of the backstory going in. But I think this movie is going to set up the rest of oh my god, set up the rest of them in the fact that this is like you can be like, oh, the world's already lived in, go watch Superman type thing. But that's why I think that the first half specifically kind of took a little bit to get its footing because it was one trying to set up so many things, and then two, it just like there's so much going on. It felt like so many things were happening. Like so that those were kind of my main issues. And but luckily the second half really takes it home.
See, I actually didn't have as much of a problem. I think there's been so much Superman content from Superman Returns to Man of Steel to Smallville. to the Superman animated show. You know, we've seen the origin story of Superman so many times, and to not retread on that ground that's been laid, you know, so many times. I liked it, and I liked more so figuring things out. I personally hadn't heard of Ultraman, surprisingly, or the other villain. What's the female's name?
I'll pull it up. So keep going, but I want to touch on Ultra.
Yeah. So I didn't know about either of those, and I kind of liked that you're kind of confused. You're trying to figure out who is this Ultraman, who this Hammer of Baravia. You know, you're there in real time, and then kind of the early roots of the Justice Gang. Personally, I loved the first half. I didn't have that problem that you did. I thought getting right into the action was awesome, and seeing the Fortress of Solitude, Crypto. So yeah, personally, I loved the direction of going in already as Superman, who he moved to Metropolis. He's kind of been in his career a couple of years. However, I will say the only thing that threw me off ever so slightly was how Clark Kent and Lois Lane were already so deep into their relationship, and not only that, she was well aware that Clark Kent and Superman are one and the same. I think that was kind of my only hiccup. I thought felt a little strange to be dropped in at that point.
But it plays into that the fact that it's like it feels again like that would have been in the first movie, and then you're
Yeah,
dropping it in the second one. That's like those are some of the things. By the way, the woman's name is the character is the engineer is
the
the
engineer. Okay,
but
that's what it was.
but I do want to touch on Ultraman because and obviously this is spoilers. He is a clone of Superman. I see. I had the opposite reaction in the sense of I knew immediately that was a clone of Superman. I actually knew immediately, even from the trailers. I figured I didn't know, but I guessed it was pretty much going to be that for two reasons. One, it's very similar, and I won't spoil that this property, but there's very similar with something they do in The Boys. Um, that it's ironically a character that's like very looks very much like the Ultraman character. I didn't know about Ultraman itself. I just figured I'm like they're not showing this guy's face for a reason. I think that it's just going to be a clone. That's maybe I just watched so many movies that it's just like I'm automatically going to assume that. But two, then I always the first thing that pops in my head is like this could be Bizarro. Like I was thinking that, which I still think it is. Like I don't I think they called him Ultraman just because he needed like a hero's name. Because I was reading like Ultraman is a different version of Superman from an alternate universe.
Yes,
So if you knew about that part, you kind of could probably get it. That's not why I knew. I didn't know
I
anything
knew
about
about Bizarro. I don't think they're the. I don't think it's the same character, but
I
that's fine.
think that they're gonna. I think they're gonna tie it in somehow. Like I think they'll turn him into this version of Bizarro. That's what I'm guessing. But I don't know. I just once I saw the trailers and this guy's going toe to toe with Superman. I'm like, who is this guy? Like this. I'm like, watch this be like a clone or something. And then as the movie's going, the tendencies of this character is very much kind of like Black Noir from The Boys. Like the way that he acts, and then The Boys TV show is a different twist than the comic book. I don't know. I kind of just like I thought it was so similar to The Boys that I was just kind of guessing, and it ended up being right. So it was more of like an educated guess more than I knew for sure. But I once I saw this character, I'm like, that guy is definitely a clone or something.
Well, let me interject here. So another thing I wanted to talk about was the power scaling and the decision by Gunn to kind of level down Superman a little bit, let him get bruised, let him bleed. And I actually think that having Ultraman in here, who's a Superman clone, it kind of assuages a lot of the concerns that I had. At least I remember in
100%.
the first half of the movie, I was kind of pissed because I was like, Superman's fighting this random guy, the Hammer of Baravia, and he's
Yeah.
like on death's door, and he needs to get a direct injection of the yellow sunlight to be revived. And I was kind of pissed because to me that wasn't realistic. But the fact that you find out Ultraman is essentially another Superman, then it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of him getting burned by the infrared eye beams or rays, whatever they're called, and just kind of the power scale of Superman in this movie?
I personally didn't have a problem with it, especially with what you said. Like if the character that was just beating up Superman was just like a random Joe Schmo, I'd be like, okay, what the hell's going on here? But the fact that eventually, obviously, you learn that it is Superman basically wailing on himself, so it make and plus with the fighting style of Lex Luthor because he's basically memorized all his moves. So it make toward the end it makes it that better. I actually like the power set thing because he is still super powerful. He is still like the only time he's really kind of weakened outside of that when he's fighting himself is when he's exposed to kryptonite.
Yeah, that's true.
So for me, it's still he's still this all powerful being. But to make it like I mean, because at the end of the day, he's an overpowered character. So you have to do something to he's got one weakness and it's kryptonite or fighting other Kryptonians his level. Um, so I didn't personally mind it. I can see why, like, especially when he's fighting that big like kaiju monster where he's not getting beat up or anything, but it's like
No, but
think that he
he
can just
struggled more than he should have, I think.
yeah, yeah. Like it took him a little longer than it probably should have. And he was ended up being more focused on like saving people, which I liked that element. He even saves the squirrel, and he even wants to save the kaiju. And then the Justin Gang just absolutely kills it. Um, I love that part, but yeah, I didn't personally have a huge issue with the power set. And honestly, it kind of plays back to the prior conversation in terms of the Batman universe. Not that not that he can't be super powered in that universe, but it's almost like the way that Batman is set up. It feels like that this Superman could technically live in that world. So I don't know. I didn't mind it personally.
Yeah, he wouldn't be too overpowered for that Matt Reeves Batman world. I agree. And since you brought up the kaiju, another interesting point of conversation, and especially in contrast and comparison to the MCU of late, I personally thought the CGI was great. I thought the CGI was
Phenomenal.
really good. I think Crypto was incredible. I didn't know Crypto was CGI. I thought Crypto was a real dog. And I
Yeah,
think
that's how good.
it's
It's
a
like
breath of
walking.
fresh air
Yeah.
compared to kind of some of the recent Marvel shows and movies, like the infamous scene in Black Widow where they're falling out of the sky and it's the worst CGI possible. I thought the CGI was great. I think where I didn't love it as much were some of those monster of the week type monsters that
Like their
appeared in the
look.
movie. Like was it the starfish, the kaiju,
Well,
um,
the starfish was in Suicide Squad.
or not Starfish. What was the when he's letting the Justice Gang fight in the background when he's talking with
Oh, that big like eye thing, like it's like
yeah,
he calls it something. He calls it like a something. Uh, I didn't mind that. I thought it looked good. I thought that
it looked good. It looked good.
especially the big creature one that they all fight. His face kind of looks like a baby Bowser. He looks like a bit strange, but I don't know. I'm with you though that the CGI pretty much across the board with all the flying scenes. It looked great, and I
Amazing.
think it's a testament to. I mean, they took their time with this movie. It wasn't a 1 year. We're filming a 1 year out, and we're gonna try to cram everything in, which a lot of movies are doing. Especially like some of the early ones of the last few years were kind of more effective during the COVID era of like when they were trying to do all that stuff. But now a lot of them are just more just people being lazy, and they didn't. They took their time with this movie, and the post production it pays off because the movie looks great. And yeah, he was getting criticized. Like some of the trailers were criticizing how the flying looked. In the movie, it looks great. Like I thought the
It was
flying,
awesome.
I thought the suit looks great too. By the way, that's not CGI, but I think the suit's awesome.
It's
It
very
looks
comic booky, but I did love it, and I love the new design of the
yeah,
actual logo itself.
me too, me too. So
And go ahead.
no, go. I was gonna change it to something I want to jump to after,
Well,
but go for it.
I was gonna say I don't want to get off the topic of crypto too quickly because I
Yes,
genuinely think my favorite characters besides obviously Superman were Crypto and then Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern, which the Guy
Leon.
Gardner we can get into later. But Crypto was such a key character for those emotional moments, those lighthearted moments. Um,
I mean, if
and
you have a pet, there's no way you can't like the crypto. It's like he did it so well, and what James Gunn's one of his strengths is his love of animals. I mean, you can see it obviously through the Guardians movies too, but I agree with you 100% in the sense of like I thought I was worried about crypto in the sense of like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna be almost too goofy, too out there? And I
same, I
thought the way
agree.
that it's so organic in this movie that if it would honestly feel weirder without him in the movie. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was kind of skeptical because, to my knowledge, we haven't really had a live action movie with Crypto. I mean, I didn't see the old Christopher Reeve iterations, but at
You
least in
haven't seen the Christopher Reeves iteration? He's been.
I haven't. I got
Oh my goodness.
yes, that's a big knock on my opinion here that I haven't seen that. But uh, I thought Crypto was so incredible. I loved him, and there was also heavy John Wick vibes once they kind of beat up and took Crypto, and that scene I referenced earlier when
Yeah.
Superman, rushes into Luthor Core and gets in Lex's face. It was reminiscent of John Wick.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm still not over the fact you haven't seen the Donners, like the Donner movie. Oh my God. But one of the other characters you mentioned there was Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern, Guy Gardner. I want to touch on the Justice Gang because I'm with you. Nathan Fillion's or Guy Gardner was the other one that I saw his haircut and I'm just his initial first picture. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, this could either be really good or really bad, and it was really good. He was phenomenal. He has some great lines. There's a bit in regarding the Justice Gang name that is awesome and that has a final payoff at the end with Metamorpho. That was hilarious. And then Mr. Terrific though of the gang, I thought was a huge standout as well. He has a bit more to do because he goes with Lois to like the black hole interdimensional prison. And I thought he was great too. I knew less about him because I reckon I knew him from like the Just League Unlimited show, but like I didn't know too much about him, and he's a cool character, stoic and like just dry humor. So I thought both of them worked. Hawkgirl, honestly, of the three, had the least to do. I feel like she had like five lines really. Uh, didn't really have too much. She does absolutely
Her
murder
screaming
that.
was a little bit. Her
The
screaming
scream,
was
yeah, I was
a
the
little bit
screams were
annoying.
a bit strange. I was yeah, they're a bit annoying. She absolutely does murder that dictator. It's like I'm not Superman and just drops him to his death. I like that part, but the screams for me, I'm with you. Nah, the screams like almost took me out. It's like whoa, whoa, whoa. It was like
Yeah, was not a fan of that. Yeah, the Justice King also one of the highlights of the movie, and I was going back and forth about whether it was strange to have the Justice Gang or the early iteration of the Justice League in the first Superman movie, but I think it really paid off. I think the Guy Gardner Nathan Fillion Green Lantern was great. To me, he's kind of analogous to like a Drax. He's that comic relief character that you can't help but love. And Mr. Terrific is kind of analogous to Gamora. That kind of stoic
yeah.
personality that over time kind of grows emotion and grows friendship with all the other characters. I thought they were really great. Uh, Green Lantern was absolutely hilarious.
He was hilarious.
He was so funny, and I didn't realize he was going to be in the new Lantern show on
Yes, he's
HBO.
gonna be in the new Lanterns, and the Justice Gang is gonna be in Peacemaker. So
Really?
I don't know to what extent, but they're in the trailer. They opened the trailer because Peacemaker's trying to audition for the Justice Gang.
Well, speaking of Peacemaker, the John Cena cameo was
Yeah,
hilarious as well.
his cameo was great. Wait, have you even seen Peacemaker?
I haven't seen Peacemaker.
Oh my God, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Peacemaker. Go watch Peacemaker. James Gunn actually said on one of his recent junkets, he actually said Peacemaker's his favorite thing he's ever made.
Yeah, that's a little wild. I don't know how I could say that when you got
I
Guardians
disagree
of
with
the
it.
Galaxy 1 there.
But that's my favorite. But Peacemaker is great, and his cameo in this movie is pretty funny because like came out of nowhere, and it was like it was a good one. It was a good one. Uh,
Yeah.
so before I want to touch on some things that I know one thing that both of us definitely had an issue with. But before we get to some of the negatives outside of like first half talk in the beginning, the one more person I want to highlight is Lex Luthor, Nicholas Holtz.
Oh, yes.
The villain in this movie. I mean, he is. I thought he was great. I as much as I love like the Snyderverse movies, I do like those movies. I not a fan of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. This one is
Completely agree.
infinity times better. And he was menacing. He was envious. Like you can kind of feel his hatred for Superman and why he's doing what he's doing. Not that you can agree with him, but it's you know why he's so angry and then he's dude, that scene when he just kills that guy, the innocent guy who all he
Yes.
did was help Superman to like lift up. That's all. That's the only connection he had to Superman. And he blows his head off. I thought that was like the one thing that caught me. Like, oh man,
We looked at each other
oh,
in the movie. I think we were
yeah,
both shocked because
yeah,
you kind of come into this gun movie and it's lighthearted and comic booky and silly and a little bit too silly at times, and then you have this kind of really dark and cruel murder by Lex Luthor and even the way that he treats his girlfriend and everything. I love the fact that James Gunn turns you against Lex Luthor quickly, and he's kind of relentless and ruthless with it.
100%.
Um, and in terms of pure acting chops, I think Nicholas Hoult was the best from the movie. I thought he made you hate him so much, and he just had such a clear purpose. It was totally believable. I was looking at him, and I thought Lex Luthor. I forgot he was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. It's funny that to know that he actually auditioned for Superman, but I'm like, I only can see you as Lex Luthor. He did such a good job, and he really, becomes Lex in this movie, and it was nice to see that it's actually like a villain that you hate. It's not a villain that's going to be redeemed. This guy, you hate this guy. Like you want him. You not only do you want Superman to win, but you want this guy to lose because he's such a bad person, and just it was great. I loved it. I'm glad they went the more not necessarily darker. I mean the guy him shooting the guy in the head is obviously very dark. Um, but I like the iteration of that of he's at the end of the day he hates Superman, but he's also it's a power play for him to eliminate Superman so that he
Yeah.
could essentially take over a country. And it's very comic booky. It's very old school Superman Lex dynamic. So it was cool to see.
Before we go to the negatives, I also want to shout out Jimmy Olsen. I thought Jimmy Olsen, a lot of he indirectly played a large part in moving the plot forward. His dynamic with Mutant Rose, as she was called, and I thought he was hilarious. Although the Daily Planet stuff was less
Super.
involved than I would have liked, it was a little bit underused. But I love Jimmy Olsen's character, and I think that's an important character going forward.
So for me, I didn't have as much of an issue with Jimmy Olsen's character himself. I had a little bit more of an issue with his role. Like I didn't really like Mutantos. Like I actually had more of an issue with her and all her selfies, which at the end of the day, I get it. She was actually really outsmarting Lex in that sense of like she seems like this dumb bimbo who's just taking selfies all the time, but she's actually gathering evidence for the case that she would ever need it because she knows about what happens to all the other exes in Lex's life. Um, so I like that angle of it, but I just thought like when they went to like like when they went to go meet up, and it was just like for me it took me out a little bit too much, and it felt a little bit too much for me at times that I was like, ah, like it was okay. Like I didn't hate it, but it was like I didn't love it. I wasn't a huge like I wasn't like a huge fan of that plot, but I mean Scott
Yeah,
just
where you're coming from.
the Jizz Man. He was funny, and he out of all um the other Daily Planet characters, he's the best one. I mean, the other ones don't really have any sort of plot, or not plot, any sort of even character. They maybe each have like three lines in the movie, which is crazy because they're used a lot in the marketing, but
Right.
they're not in this movie very much. Only Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen are. And I know we just said we're going to go to negatives. One last thing, we touched on it very briefly, but I do want to give another shout out. Rachel Brosnahan was incredible. I love this version of Lois Lane. Her chemistry and dynamic with David Cornsweet was great, and the actual journalist side of her is one that we haven't been able to see in a little bit. I know there's a little bit of like Amy Adams's, but it's nothing like I thought this was a more realistic portrayal of what she would be in, I guess, real life or in this world. So I thought she did great, and great chemistry with David.
Yeah, 100%. Once again, she was pissing me off in the moment when she's questioning Superman and she's saying, "Oh, did you speak to the president? Did you consult anybody in the U.S. government?" Blah, blah, blah. And I was getting riled up and pissed. She was really tugging on my kind of anger, and then that's when Superman kind of blows up on her. So I think she did a really great job. I also think, like you mentioned, the on-screen chemistry between Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet was incredible, and it's actually almost dangerous because it was getting Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell vibes. They're a little too good on screen, and even in
They are.
the
I
marketing
know.
materials after. So yeah, she hit it out of the park. I thought she was absolutely great as well.
100%. Yeah, that's a great comp because they are very close in the marketing too. Um, all right, so I'll move on to I've pretty much mentioned all my negatives minus two. The first we'll touch on is the biggest, I guess, twist and change to Superman's origin being the fact that his parents from Krypton sent him here to conquer Earth versus to be the savior of Earth. I don't like that decision at all. I'm hoping that it gets retconned in one of the upcoming movies that it was some super high tech deep fake that Lex was able to create. I don't like that decision at all. I don't. It feels just dirt that like it feels very one. It's basically the exact thing from Invincible. What his dad is sent here to do, the Viltrumites. So one, it feels just weird, and then but it just doesn't feel like Superman like that. Like his parents sent him here as an act. It's an act of them saving his life from a planet that is dying. But instead, it's like, no, I'm sending you here to go conquer this planet. I did not like that change. That's the one big critique that I have. The rest I can live with. This one was I was like, duh. Honestly, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I really did not like this change.
It doesn't even make sense because his parents were very self-sacrificial. The planet is dying, and the whole civilization is going to die. And instead of being selfish and putting one of themselves in a rocket ship to escape, they send their son. And you know, it's sacrificial in nature. So to think that could happen, but also somehow they wanted him to take over another planet, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like it's a slap in the face to Superman lore. And is it possible that there's some sort of Superman comic that explores this storyline? I'm sure, but even if there is, it's definitely not the mainstream Superman history and lore. And I think Jor El and his mother's name that I forget. They're such key characters. They shape who Superman or Clark Kent is. So that's the main reason I don't like it. On the other hand, it did kind of create this beautiful emotional moment with how he bonds with Ma and Pa Kent in
Yeah,
Kansas. So I did like that, but I don't think it has to be. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. That he can't love both sets of parents.
100%. 100. Like in all the other ones, I mean, I've loved. I mean, obviously, you haven't seen the original Supermans, but Marlon Brando was great. Russell Crowe is great in Man of Steel. Those characters are central to Superman, and just like in every Superman iteration I've seen, and I read that supposedly it was like this is not the first time it's actually come up. It's like they something in Smallville supposedly. I don't know. I've never seen Smallville, so I have no idea, but it for me
You've
it just
never seen Smallville.
I've never seen Smallville. No,
Me neither.
I'm with you. I'm a Superman. Like I prefer in this sense like a more traditional route of like yeah like his parent like he can love both parents like one that both parents are so instrumental in him. One of them saving his life, the other one raising him to become who he does. I don't think they need to. One of them needs to be bad. You know, it was the one decision I really did not like in this movie as the biggest flaw for me, to be honest.
Yeah,
So I know we both immediately had that right after.
yeah. I was really hoping that, like you said, it was going to be some high tech AI that altered,
Yeah,
that tape, and and that would make more sense. That Lex Luthor would fool the world with cutting edge technology to make an even full Superman to kind of make it so that his parents seemed evil. But
exactly.
I'm on board with you. I really hope James Gunn kind of comes back in one of the sequels and changes it, because it was borderline offensive, honestly.
Yeah. Um, and then the last one I had, not as big of an issue for me, and I know you actually like this. I I'm cautious about the Supergirl aspect of it, in the sense of I wasn't a huge fan of the Supergirl scene where she like I didn't mind her coming in like kind of being like the crazier cousin in the sense of like she's off partying and she's younger and whatever. But like she was just it was almost too much. Like she was like it was almost like too exaggerated. And then like then her walking out and calling Clark a bitch. I'm like, what the hell's happening right now? I was like so confused. I was like, one, they should have saved that and made that the post credit scene. To be honest,
100%. Very
I don't
weak
know if
post credit
it's the
scenes.
actual movie, but I don't know. I didn't love that. I don't know too much about Supergirl, so it could be totally in her character. I have no idea. I just was watching. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of random. Like, where does this even come from? And the fact that Crypto is her dog, don't mind that change. I know it's
Love that.
supposedly Superman's. I don't know, but I don't mind the change. And it's funny that I like the explanation of why he's the way he is because she's so carefree with the dog. That was the one part that I did like
And
about it. But
she's
you're right.
away.
I was so off put. I was like, who is like why is she calling Superman a bitch? Like what is wrong? This girl's hammered right now. Like that was the one part I was like, what is going on right now?
I personally loved it. I think it's kind of one of those creative risks that it creates a lot of intrigue for the character. It's something modern and different, and I think it intrigues me to want to go watch Supergirl on the premiere date. I want to learn more about this iteration of Supergirl, and I love Millie Alcock's casting of
I
it.
do too.
I
Yeah.
think she's perfect. I thought it was hilarious. You know, the use of foul language in a Superman movie, that's unheard of. I love that decision, and you know, overall, I think James Gunn did a great job of threading the needle of being silly, of being emotional, and being serious. He kind of did every time he was a little bit too silly, it ended up revealing itself later why he did that.
Yeah.
And I think Supergirl's perfect example of that. Although I do agree with you, the post credit scenes were pretty
Yeah, nothing.
terrible. I mean,
They're nothing perfect.
terrible, but
One of them's basically, I mean, they're not terrible because they're cool little snippets, but they're not like anything like you're looking for. Like you should, if you honestly, if you can't wait and you need to go to the bathroom, I mean, you've probably if you're watching this far, you've already seen this movie. But it's really they're useless in that sense of like they're just more clips, like little fun gags. Like one of them's even a picture, like it's not an actual picture, but it's just Superman and Krypto sitting on the moon, like that famous picture from
although
the
that was
comic.
amazing, though that was
It
amazing.
was it was super cool, but I wish they could have just worked that into the movie and then just put in the this Supergirl clip part in a post credit. 'Cause I think it would have played better in a post credit. Although I still would have been like, what the hell? But like at least it was like, oh, I get they're just setting up the next movie as opposed to it's just in this movie. So that was my one thing. But overall, awesome movie, great movie. I can't wait. I don't know when I'm gonna go see it again. I'm trying to see it again this weekend. I definitely like. I want to go back and see it again, and that's as good of a compliment as you can give a movie. Is that you want to go back and see it in theaters, and that's exactly what I want to do. So AJ, I will hand it off to you for your rating of this movie, and any final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's such a breath of fresh air to have hope again in a superhero cinematic universe. We had a great run with Marvel with the Infinity Saga, and it's kind of been up and down ever since. And to kind of be on the beginning of a new cinematic universe, this being James Gunn DCU, is exciting. Me and David, or me and you, we looked at each other and we couldn't take the smiles off of our face after. It felt good to just escape into a superhero movie and have fun, and this is exactly what it was. And you know, it makes me curious and intrigued for the future. I want to learn more about the Justice League. I want to learn more about Supergirl. I want more of Superman and Crypto. So, you know, I'm going to be there for every premiere of every DCU movie. I loved it, and I'm going to stick with with my gut reaction in the non-spoiler instant reaction out of the theater that we filmed, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I think it deserves it. For me, it's movie of the year so far in 2025, and yeah, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I've actually changed a little bit since when I watched it and did the review. The more I've sat on it and the more I've thought, this movie hasn't left my brain in what 3 4 days now.
Me neither.
It has not left my brain. I can't stop talking about. It. I can't stop consuming Superman content. So I walked out of the theater at an 8. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I was between 3.5 and 4. I ended up bumping it to 4 on the review. I'm actually gonna move it. I was at an 8. I'm gonna move it closer to a 9. I'm not at a 9 yet. I think I need to see it again to see if I can get there. But I'm going from 8 to 8.5,
All right,
possibly even 8.8. Who knows? But
let's
I'm
go.
getting that 9 range where I'm hoping to get, and I'm hoping, see if anything changes on a rewatch. Usually I even prefer them even more after seeing them a million times.
Before
But
you
yeah,
close out, though, since this is Hondo's blockbuster, where is it in your rankings of the movies of 2025? Has that changed?
I don't know yet. I will do a full ranking of all my summer movies. I don't know. I really don't. It's not number one. I will say that. It's not number one. It's tough because I again, all the other ones, to its defense, I've seen more than once and I've liked, except F1. And actually, ironically, F1 is still right now my favorite movie of the summer. I think it's the best blockbuster of the summer. But Thunderbolts and Mission Impossible and this one are in the same. That's just those are my three other in the realm.
Dwarf.
I've seen Thunderbolts and I've seen Mission Impossible twice in theaters, and both times I liked it even more the second time. Even Thunderbolts, which I liked a lot the first time, I but Mission Impossible specifically, which I alluded to in my review, I similar issue with Mission Impossible where I had issues with the first half and how it got to the point till then it started getting its feet and taking off. Similar thing with this, very different movies, but similar kind of things. And when I saw it the second time, the first half bothered me a lot less. It flew a lot faster and more smooth. And so I have a feeling this one might do the same. So who knows where I rank it? But right now it's in my top four. I'll give you
There you
that.
go. Right. Well,
Yeah,
I'll let you close out, but parting words. Absolutely great movie. Exciting times. If you've seen this, you've probably already seen the movie, but if you haven't, go watch it. And even if you have seen it, go watch it again.
one hundred
Support
percent.
this new DCU project and universe by James Gunn. And David, thanks for having me on again as a guest on Hondo's Blockbuster. I hope to be back soon for many more.
100%. Always a pleasure to have you, AJ. A blast to go watch this with you and a blast to talk about it. It feels good. Honestly, I do so outside of the drafts, which we've done, which are a blast. All these reviews and I get to talk about it just alone. So it's good. It's actually more fun to do it with somebody else where you can kind of bounce it off. So I like this discussion. And if you made it this far, a few things: like, comment, subscribe. Anything helps. We've seen a big jump from Superman already. Like we've gone from 5 to almost 700 subscribers in just these last
Come
4 days.
on.
Let's get to the 1,000 mark. If you made it this far, then you are a true fan here. All is appreciated, and stay tuned for more. This is not the end that we're talking about Superman. We're gonna do a DC movie character draft. We're gonna be talking about Superman probably still for the next week, and then luckily we do get to dive into another superhero property in the Fantastic Four. So July is packed. 3 major blockbusters so far. I'll tell you what. So far, this one is a billion times better than Jurassic World. I'll tell you that much. So right now, it's at least I got to get that taste of that mutant dinosaur out of my mouth. But yeah, thank you for listening this long. Thank you as always. We'll see you at the movies.
Yes.
Peace.